Hi, everybody. It's Ryan Kerr here from Nocturnal Transmission, and I don't have an episode ready for this week. But that's because I have such a great idea for the interviews that I've conducted in the last 3 weeks. And I want to work on them a little bit more before I release it. So that means next week's show is going to be super fantastic. And I thought maybe I would take an opportunity to share a little bit about myself and a little bit about this process. And, not for an hour. Although I was joking with a friend today that I could probably talk until the computer explodes, but we won't worry about that yet. So, Nocturnal Transmission, and not Transmissions, because that is a horror review in Australia. And I apologize if Nocturnal Transmissions feels like I'm infringing on their name. I think we just came up with the idea separately, but I actually hate horror movies, or rather, they scare me. And so I can't, it's not my... So I'm more of the sexual spin of Nocturnal Transmission, but also the pun of it being, an evening show. Anyway, Nocturnal Transmission began as an Instagram live show. It actually began as me turning my phone on when our first lockdown here in Toronto happened and saying, well, gee, who's around? And I turned on Instagram live and whoever was online said hi. And I was like, well, hi back. And I said at the end of a 15-minute chat, should I come back tomorrow, same time? And yeah. And slowly I started to build. And I did that for 100 days in a row, as you may have read in the description of this broadcast. And that was a lot. One of the things that it did, though, is it really showed me how passionate I am about talking with people, talking about current issues. And the mechanism of exchanging ideas, I think, is really important. Not just pontificating and having one point of view, but actually having someone else to bounce ideas off of. And also, the Instagram Live is a forum for more voices than just two. And I really, really love that. And one of the things that grew out of that 100-day experiment, exhaustion. And then we had this idea that I would create something that I could produce a little bit more and maybe edit a little bit. The downside to doing a live show is that whatever happens, happens. And sometimes that meant that shows couldn't be recorded because the guest didn't feel confident in what they were saying, or the host. I also didn't feel like I did a good job in certain shows, and so I didn't want to record those and let them be viewed again. And so the idea of having a podcast that I can edit and tweak a little bit is great. Of course, the trap is if you spend too long tweaking it and you spend too long editing it, then it loses the spontaneity, it loses the spirit. And so that's the middle ground that I'm negotiating these days. And frankly, I'm enjoying. The other thing I'm playing with is the length. Should the show be an hour long? Should this podcast be an hour? Should it have 2 guests? Should it have 1 guest? I'm curious what the format is, and I would love any feedback that you have, especially if you send it to me via Instagram, because that's the platform I use the most. You could find me on the Google, but I think if you find me at Ryan Seeker, RyanSeeker, another pun, I'm always looking for something. That's a good way to reach me too. The other thing is a little bit about myself. I am a member of the queer community. I identify as a gay, cisgendered white man. And I also am HIV positive. And one of the things that my upbringing and my whole host of experiences has shown me is that when someone speaks on your behalf, they usually get it wrong. And my hope is that this show is an opportunity for me to elicit or to be a vehicle or a platform for other voices and other stories to be told that may not be heard. And to hear those stories from, the origin as opposed to my take, or because I've seen many, many, many times when somebody speaks for me, on behalf of me, and what it does, right? It's a real silencer. It's not just that they take up space that could be mine. It's that they actually silence me. I remember one of the first times I that really resonated with me was my very first World AIDS Day after testing positive for HIV myself, and seeing a representative from the HIV positive community speaking to, in this case, it was to the city of Toronto on behalf of all HIV positive people everywhere. And of course, one person can't speak for all people, but boy, did I feel like that person did not represent me. And it made me want to champion my own voice. And in doing that, it's made me want to champion other voices as well. So I just wanted to keep the rhythm of having a show and a release every Thursday. Release, pun, get it? Ha ha ha. Every Thursday. And so I didn't want to leave this Thursday blank. I'm very excited about some things that are coming down the pipeline. I'm very excited about this new year, even though, my goodness, has there ever been some stuff happening? In the United States yesterday in Capitol Hill, holy stars. But I am hopeful that whatever we face this year, we've had last year as a real sharpener. I feel like my toolbox is much larger and has more potential, more ability, and I hope yours does too. In any case, Happy New Year from Nocturnal Transmission. We'll be back again next week with some pretty cool interviews. Take care. Bye.